Hello, welcome back to another video on pariah juice. In this video, I'm going to be doing a live reading of one of my essays that I just published on my Substack. You can access my body of work on Substack at pariahjuice.substack.com. It's my play space where I have a lot of fun with my writing and synthesizing new ideas and just putting it out there. So go take a look. I'm pretty sure you'll be satisfied. It's cool stuff. So I've been writing for a while now, and my specific type of writing, which is essays, has just been, proliferating, and I've been getting better and better and better. But it still felt a little two-dimensional. So I decided, let me add a video component to this to add some body, to add some life. So the essay that I just published is called Roadkill. And before I get into the reading, I want to do a little bit of an introduction on how I came across this idea and the process of writing it, as well as a lot of my inspiration. So to preface, I think I'm going to call this video Introduction to Digital Shamanism, because that's something that is a title that I resonate and that I feel that I am fulfilling. A little bit how I got to this topic. So digital shamanism is about ushering in new methodologies, new ontologies, new philosophies, congregating, collaborating, a way to build a future with technology as our partner instead of as our oppressor, right? So the way that we're leaning right now in the tech space, it's very anti-human in many ways. Although I am a avid lover of tech, I am a user of tech. We've become cyborgs at this point. We can't live without tech. This is in no way me denouncing or renouncing technology, but rather seeing the pitfalls, seeing the gaps, seeing the problems with the story that we've built around our technology, and me having this desire to steer this into another direction. So, digital shamanism is a person like a shaman, if you know anything about shamanism, as one of the oldest spiritual religious practices in the world. Shamans are usually pariahs of the group, of the community. They usually live on the outskirts, and they are healers as well as predictors of weather, as well as spiritual teachers. Shamans have a way of knowing how to heal and who to heal. And when the community is in dire need, whether it's an individual crisis or a collective crisis, they find their way into the woods. They find their way to the outskirts of the community to find the shaman to help guide them through transformation, guide them through the crisis in general. So I've called myself a digital shaman now for a while, because the way that I approach tech is not necessarily the standard way that we have been taught to approach technology. I am not a programmer, although I am learning. I am not into hardware architecture, although I'm interested. But my expertise and my passion lies in design ethos and philosophy of technology. A little bit how I got to philosophy of tech. I was introduced to the study of cybernetics by reading Norbert Wiener's Design for Freedom, and I was instantly hooked. Like, I said, wow, this is huge. And I'll do another video on practical cybernetics, as I call it, introduction to cybernetics, that people can take from this study and implement in their own life. But moving forward, so cybernetics became like a huge way in how I approach my work and how I perceive the world, how I perceive reality, and how reality is created. And I use cybernetics as a way of tuning into the cultural feedback, right? So feedback, and I talked about this in my last video about Black culture socially engineered, how aesthetic and culture work in tandem to create a feedback loop that then impacts the outcome of both aesthetic and culture. So with cybernetics and tech and digital shamanism, I was like, okay, these are all interrelated. How can I package this? How can I create a body of work that explores this further? Back to what I was talking about with shamans, shamans partake in this feedback loop. They are the ones that can kind of predict the future because they're so in tune with the ecosystem, they're so in tune with nature and other dimensions, whether it be animal dimensions, botanical dimensions, mineral dimensions, etc., that they're able to draw from the consciousness of these dimensions, draw from the energy of these dimensions, and kind of understand what is approaching, what is coming in the greater ecosystem. And so these have been called omens, synchronicities, popular in the field of psychology. But shamans listen to these and then they are able to position themselves as leaders of through transformation. So although I am not in an all natural space and we are in the depths of modernity and modern culture, shamanism still exists in so many ways. And one of these ways is kind of understanding that we have this intelligence, we have this new technological species upon us, and there has to be a way, there has to be methodologies, blueprints in order to create a world where we can coexist, in order to create a world of symbiosis instead of parasitic behavior. And so as a digital shaman, I make it my duty to kind of learn these philosophies of tech, learn from these pioneers, the ones who are monopolizing the industry, the ones who are being enzymatic and creating, being disruptors in the industry, and kind of taking from their stories and weighing it and packaging it and delivering it to y'all so that you guys all know what we're faced against and we can properly diagnose our collective disposition, our collective positions in relation to tech, and we can create a brighter future. So yes, I am your digital shaman. Nice to meet you. Now let's get into this essay. Super excited about this one. This one definitely took a piece out of me. Writing has always been, words have always been my weapon of choice. The pen is mightier than the sword. The keyboard is mightier than the sword. And in the last couple of years, I've really been dedicating myself to my writing and creating this body of work that you all can access. So here on Substack, as you can see, I have a little picture I made. It's Cyborg Santa Muerte. I'll get into that a little later, but let's get into the reading. Sit back, grab some water, grab some tea, grab some juice, some fresh pressed juice, a ginger shot maybe, and listen and enjoy. Okay. There are certain typos in this, just so you know. So if you hear me stuttering, it's just that, I'm getting through the typos, but we're past perfectionism, all right? It is too late for that. We are in dire need of new ideas, new stories, and hearing what people have to say. All right. So I spot a dead animal on the side of the road. It is bloated, with its guts spilling out and a broken antler. Its eyes are open and stiff with death. I shudder in grief as I drive by. I don't really want to look at it, but I force myself to. We have been trained to regard roadkill as general happenstance, an undesirable part of life, but nonetheless a thing that happens. Subconsciously, we might even blame the animals for their own demise, rarely zooming out to see how we got to this point in the first place. Roadkill is the reminder of our planet's trajectory and all that might accompany it if we continue to be rocked to sleep by the faint whirring of modernity's lullaby. Living here in America, it feels like it is nearly impossible to not get caught up in the sticky web of modernity's quick, cold, and calculated ways. In fact, our culture breeds us to embody the same traits and rewards us for acting in the same way. There is little room for contemplation, slowness, and refusal. Many of those who stray away from the script are often punished socially, spiritually, and financially. But as a descendant of modernity, I have inherited a barren wasteland of cultural depravity, and I'm left wandering in search of spiritual sustenance. With nowhere left to turn, I'm left asking myself the hard questions. Am I ready to see the truths right in front of me? Roadkill is a truth I come face to face with on a daily basis. Not on a screen, not peddled to me as propaganda, but an actual truth I experience in my real world. Choosing to see what is right in front of me is a mindfulness practice of extreme proportions, and witnessing all the dead animals in the road is one way to experience our culture's complete disregard for life. If we have gotten to the point of rarely thinking about the suffering of our animal friends, I can't even begin to fathom how we will ultimately treat our neighbors in the next 10 years. How many of you guys know your neighbors? Do you talk to your neighbors? Do you know them by name? Do you trust your neighbors? Where do we, intelligent humans, fit into this story? Whether or not we choose to see our true place in this ever-changing world, death seems to be the ultimate price for the techno-schizophrenic culture we live in today. Truth be told, I'm completely mystified by technology, the philosophy of technology, and the concepts morphing technological progress. Its darkness is a foreboding terrain filled with depravity, but its light is equally majestic in its ability to bring forth good. I am not conflicted. I am not conflicted about technology's existence, but rather I am disheartened by the lifelessness programmed into it. While I continue to immerse myself in the wild discourse, because it's wild, y'all, like, it's wild. The wild discourse of technological exceptionalism, I oftentimes step away from the whimsical chatter to bear witness to the nightmare its current praxis has left in its wake. When I bridge the gap between what technology can do and what it is actually doing, it becomes the ultimate psychedelic experience. What starts out as a boundary pushing trip transitions into a scary ride filled with corporate ghouls and soul snatching mechanics. I feel a deep bitterness towards our culture's relationship with tech, and I often find myself waiting for the ball to drop and crush humanity beneath its weight. As I continue to teeter-totter between my love and hate for technological advancement, I am once again ushered into a place of paradox. Paradox has a brilliant way of illuminating the path forward. We can hold two truths at once. So this is not about whether technology is good or evil. This is about the story encasing technology and whether we will shape it or be shaped by it. As I wade through the gruesome wreckage of the Industrial Inquisition, it is clear we have reached a critical point determining our future ability to tell our own story. But despite these dark observations, and even to my own surprise, I don't have the desire to morally reject technology in all of its capacity, a la Ted Kaczynski. It is too late for that. That ship has sailed. Instead, I choose to hold my optimism in the transformation of current global systems and those of us, like you and me, who are dedicated to becoming builders in a new world. My optimism exists only because I am aware of the immense work that needs to be done. As a digital shaman, my work requires for me to see the omens as cultural feedback, take this information to synthesize new ideas and movements in order to help steer this technological ship towards a brighter horizon. As our collective reality shifts from a once dominating anthropocentric paradigm, we must now ask ourselves, how do we adapt to a system where machines now reign supreme? Adaptation is the process of preserving and evolving at the same time. And understanding this, I ask, what parts of us do we want to bring into this next age? Collectively, we've had ample time to sort through the consequences of our more irresponsible decisions. The beast has been unleashed, and in response, a collective neurosis is aggressively spreading. The prescription? Alienation and separation from the human capacity to feel. Instead of running towards the problem, the majority of us have been properly cultured. Properly cultured. It's not a mistake. Properly cultured to run away from it. We circumnavigate the crisis and dig our heads in the sand with our tushes up, escaping into our own individual fantasies. It is through our inability to cope and to exercise our collective power that the course of history seems immovable. How many people, you and me, others, has a what's the point? It doesn't seem like we can change anything anyway, right? History seems immovable because we've lost our personal and collective power. We have been sedated through desensitization, where now extreme cases of senseless death, such as animals getting hit by machines at high speeds, becomes normalized and accepted. The gateway towards the annihilation of our own species has been properly set up. Our current collective reality is created by the rules, ethics, and goals of a select few. Most of these rules, ethics, and goals, is the same as stories. It's the same as mythologies. It's the same as saying what we want and then creating it, right? So most of these rules, ethics, and goals are alien to the ways of the human, but we have accepted them as ours and live our lives abiding by them. Like a steel thread, progress, innovation, singularity, enlightenment are woven deep into the stories and ontologies of our current Western educated, industrialized, rich, developed world. Weird world. On the surface, these concepts might sound like they would push humanity back towards balance, possibly even curing the world of its most common afflictions today, such as unchecked hunger, poverty, and displacement. But upon taking a closer look, these stories are reinforced with such strength that to undo it will require complete destruction. Pair that with behavioral modifying tech, nervous system hijacking, and algorithmic reality building, humans have become so disconnected from their personal power that this status quo is hardly challenged. In Social Contract, Jean-Jacques Rousseau attempted to formulate a theory around the cost of progress during the era of enlightenment. He understood that the social contract was a cohesive trust and belief in the law system and governments put in place to protect collective freedom, but it came at a cost. The cost was giving up some freedoms for the sake of order and collective benefit. But are we able to decide what collective benefit really means? What if tech companies, media machines, and money-hungry governments participated in campaigns to convince us that relinquishing all of our freedoms for the sake of technological progress was the good and noble thing to do? What then? We have already been uprooted from our positions as protectors of nature. Apparently, we cannot see the literal forest from the trees. And due to our gross negligence, perhaps we will miss the opportunity to rise again and accept the role as stewards and guardians of this earth. Historically speaking, the natural world, and by extension humans, continue to suffer the consequences of the untamed invasion of machinic desire. Following mercantile capitalism's mastery of logic, industrial capitalism entered the scene, thus solidifying capitalism as the reigning paradigm of the globe. Enslavement, civil wars, world wars, abusive governments, violence, misery are all glaring points in the historical record that speak mountains about the intent of the human future in regards to technological singularity. We are being convinced to trade in the most sacred parts of ourselves. We are being convinced to trade in the most sacred parts of ourselves for free. Suicide rates are the highest they've ever been. Wars, genocide, child trafficking are all front and center. The cost is right in front of us. We have been inundated with so much unnecessary, inhumane death, we've reached the point of collective paralysis. And I put in parentheses, note. The control of the human nervous system is a key tactic in social engineering and behavioral modification technologies. Freedom lies in our ability to regulate ourselves. These killings that are taking place in the world and in our human hearts have devastating consequences. I call it human roadkill, And this hollowing of the human mind, body, and soul are exactly what these alien systems need in order to keep running. The extropian, techno-fanatic vision might just mean the permanent extinction of humanity. So, with this information, I am being asked to guide a new way of living through the cosmic dark forest. While the historical record is rife with atrocity, it also holds the wisdom and blueprints for our own collective liberation, if we so choose. We are being faced with the archetypal story of triumph out of darkness once again as we lean towards an era of immense spiritual decay. So I asked myself again, where in space time have our human ancestors faced such incredible trials only to make it through to the other side? One of my favorite stories growing up was Auntie Harriet's Underground Railroad in the Sky by Faith Ringgold. As a child, I remember sitting in my closet next to my bookcase, flipping through the pages over and over again. I was absolutely enamored by her ability to convey such a liberatory and beautiful message to me through just the illustration alone. The Underground Railroad is one of my favorite reference points in the navigating the human crisis at hand. A method not even 170 years old, the Underground Railroad gives us the knowledge, wisdom, and praxis to be able to navigate out of hostile terrain. It is a map handed down to us in story form that showcases the extraordinary technology of oral history as it is able to drift boundless through space-time. And the best part, it is a map to liberation for all. The quest towards liberation asks us to look at all the ways we continue to participate in our own enslavement. Although uncomfortable to think about, we must make a home in the discomfort and push onward. Finally, I leave you all with this last question. How can we carve a path to freedom so that when our descendants come to us in times of trial and tribulation, we are able to offer them guidance through the dark forest? The technological crisis is asking us to activate our bodhisattvic duty to one another and become active players in building a new world. The thing is, it's already in us. Through the sharing of our gifts, interests, and creations with one another, we can write a new story and achieve more than ever. Pariah Juice. This essay really, I spend about 2 months on it. One, because I'm a mother. I have things to do. I work. I have other projects. I have other collaborations happening. Um, a girl needs sleep, okay, and play and fun. So I took my time with it. I didn't want to rush it because I think Roadkill is a perfect introduction to this digital shamanism that I'm talking about. And the need to look at the omens, to look and be invested in these companies and these founders in the work of these tech giants, to understand, like, where do they want to take humanity, where do they want to take us. And again, like, this is not a rejection of technology. I am not rejecting technology. Look at this. I have the ability to reach whoever clicks on this, wherever, whenever. That is amazing, right? But we have to be careful. We have to be careful on the line that we're treading. We're always on humanity always likes to play with the line. Like, do we cross the line? And I feel like we're currently on the path to crossing the line, where a lot of these people, a lot of these people developing these companies, developing these tech, they don't see a need to preserve human essence anymore. And if they do want to preserve human essence, it's only a select few that they want to preserve, and the rest of us become roadkill. We become just chewed up by the machine, chewed up by the system, and spit out like we're worthless garbage. And we're left confused, we're left maimed, we're left dead. And so I want to diagnose, and I want to share this diagnosis, this ability to extrapolate into the future, this technological singularity, which means, like, there's different philosophies in the world, right? There's different stories, different cultures, but singularity is like this condensing into one timeline, one thread, one way of doing things. And when we have technological singularity, most of the philosophers who have philosophized, most of the philosophers who talk about this tech singularity, oftentimes, disregard the human and say that it's an inevitable next step, um, in the evolution of this planet. And perhaps, but I still see the need. I still see the need. And, as a species, as a human being, as an animal species, I want to do everything to preserve myself and my family and my descendants. And that's why the historical record, although the future can look scary and history seems to repeat itself, there are absolute gems in the historical record. And I always refer to the era of enslavement, one, because I have ancestry involved in that, blood, sweat, and tears, genetics into that. And two, it was something huge that created a foundation for a whole culture, and it didn't happen that long ago. And so when we use the historical record to our benefit to like kind of like pick out these gems and the wisdom, the era of enslavement was all about preserving, sustaining, and escaping out of hostile terrain. um, One of the ways that I feel like that translates to now is, again, about this behavior modifying tech and how us interfacing and consuming this tech and these platforms creates this hostile environment, hostile terrain, because we become the products. And when we become the products, we lose our sovereignty, we lose our ability to make decisions for ourselves, to develop our own personal taste, to develop collective taste, to develop culture in general. Like we just sit on the sidelines. We're the water boys, right? Like we're not the players in the game, and that becomes extremely detrimental and dangerous, and creates the gateway for our own extinction, our own annihilation. Because if we're not the purveyors, if we're not the tastemakers of culture, then who is and what is? Machines, right? Algorithms, elite. And we're at a point now where, with the advent of artificial intelligence, although it can be scary and it can be detrimental, on the flip side, it has given the collective, the masses, you and me, so much power to be able to compete, right, in this marketplace, in this tech marketplace, in this philosophy marketplace, and the story marketplace, right? That's where I step in. I'm a author, I'm a writer, I'm a storyteller. And when you look at a lot of these companies, it all started with a story. It all started with philosophy, with a dream, with a wish, with a desire to make something happen. So you have to remember, like, these things are not facts. One of my inspirations for this video has been Peter Thiel. Not necessarily out of like, oh yeah, he's a great man, but his ability to see and extrapolate into the future and to create a story that now humanity has adopted as their own. And it's very interesting when you like look at a lot of these tech companies, these tech giants. um they're not they don't have technical backgrounds, rarely have technical degrees. Maybe they're self-taught, but a lot of them are philosophy majors. A lot of them are history majors, or are, their foundation is in philosophy and history. So that begs the question, is like, okay, when we look at tech, we can't ignore the living aspect of the machine, and who decides, who programs it to be on a certain path, right? The design ethos, the ethics of the person creating tech. Because a lot of again, like I said, a lot of this tech is always led by mythology. Our worlds are created by mythology, and that's what I'm doing here with PJ, with Pariah Juice. It's like, okay, I see what you guys are doing. Let me do my own thing too. Let me create a world. Let me build a world with a specific design ethos, with a specific way of interfacing, with a specific way of with distributing media, distributing a message, distributing a story with a specific aesthetic that speaks, that is recognizable, that people can fall in love with, that people can trust. Like, there's mad genius behind this. So this is just a call to arms, a call for the folks who are, have their ears to the ground, who are ear hustling the tech spaces, that are ear hustling, the finance spaces and geopolitical spaces. This conversation needs to be front and center. If you don't want to become roadkill, if you don't want to become roadkill, it is your personal responsibility to be informed of the stories and the people who are guiding our future. If you don't want to become roadkill. And that's where I'm at. Since I was a child, I was like, yeah, I always had FOMO. I was like, yeah, I need to be the president of the United States or something, because I need to know. I need to know, curiosity and me, like, we're the same thing. But yeah. So tell me what you guys think about Roadkill. I would love for you guys to go log on to Substack, or even, shoot, why not? Put your email in the comment and I'll add you to my subscriber list, so you don't have to do a thing. It'll just end up in your inbox, and you can get the latest PJ drop and be in the know, right? Become a digital shaman for your family, become a digital shaman for your community, so we're not left behind and we don't become, you know, consumable products that are then left hanging by a thread. I think I'm going to end it here. Just wanted to do a reading today. Depending on the feedback, right? Cybernetics, depending on the feedback, um, I'll do another video breaking down the essay a bit more, because I know I touched on a lot of topics such as like innovation and extropian and cybernetics and all of these things. So if you want a specific breakdown of Roadkill, let me know. But I appreciate you all for listening, and I will see you guys next time. Ciao.